All right, friends. So I'm going to walk you through this timed write that everybody, the graphic organizer for the timed write that everybody did on Thursday and Friday when you were absent. So you're going to get 10 photographs to look at. You'll choose one of those photographs to be your main character of your narrative. You're going to use it as an inspiration for a realistic sounding but a fictional narrative. So you're not going to need your cell phone to look up details. That's not what you're going to be able to do on the EOC. You can't look up the time of certain battles, the locations of certain battles. You're just going to make that all up. It's going to be fictional. It should just have the feeling of it being real. You need to write it from first person point of view, so using only I, me, my personal pronouns. You should begin your narrative with a 2 paragraph minimum, a triggering incident. So your triggering incident should be 2 paragraphs at least, which of course is setting you up for a flashback because that's what we did our formative on. And in your triggering event, you should have narrative techniques like dialogue, dialect for characterization, imagery and description. You should have effective pacing like long sentence, short sentences, action during dialogue, reflection during dialogue. Just back on something that happened before the present time of the story. And then we're going to move on to our next piece here. This says 2 pages handwritten. This is 2 pages typed. You won't have to handwrite because we are typing this. But your narrative voice should sound realistic. Like if you're writing about President Lincoln, he should sound like the president. If you're writing about a general, he should sound like a general. He's going to use military words. In addition to first person point of view and flashback, you also should have some other narrative device like imagery, description, dialect inside your dialogue, sentence length, any of your gags, mass bays, those count as narrative techniques. This is the rubric. This is kind of how you receive your full points. You need to have established a situation based on the text as a stimulus. So yours not going to have a text as a stimulus. This is like from the EOC. This rubric is pulled from like the EOC rubrics, but you're going to have a photo as a stimulus. You need to establish a first person point of view, and you need to have a flashback sequence, and then use 2 or more techniques. You need to include details and sensory language to create a vivid picture. And then you should have source material integrated in. That means things from the picture need to show up somewhere in your story, which we'll talk about in a second. And then few grammar errors. So this is how you get the full points to get an A on the EOC and on your assignment that you're doing here in class. So here are your pictures are listed. You can look through those in your packet, but each of the stories that are listed all have an interesting story. Like Custer here on the right was a Union soldier, but he went to a military college, and a bunch of the people that he went to war with on the other side were people he also went to school with. So these were classmates. So he would find among the wounded somebody he knew who was from the other side. Some of the captured soldiers were people he knew. This picture was somebody he went to school with that was a captured soldier. So that can make for an interesting story. If you flip through all of them, there are several. There's a woman that's a socialite, which means she just goes to parties, who was a spy. There's a woman who dressed up as a man and did like a full Mulan situation. You decide who you want to be the main character for your story. All right. So here's what you're doing today. Most of the classes got about 40 to 45 minutes to work on this. So I'm going to show you what they worked on. They filled this whole thing out and submitted it. You cannot take this home. You cannot work on this from home. They only got this finite amount of time. Remember, on the EOC, you'll only have a certain amount of time to work on this. We're actually giving you more time because you're getting 45 minutes to write in class, and you already had time to do this pre-writing. The EOC, you're just going to have to do all the pre-writing, all the writing in the time that's allotted. So you need to choose your character out of those photographs. Your main character should be somebody from the photograph. And then you can choose any other characters you want. You can have only one other character, or you can have a bunch of other characters. That's entirely up to you. I gave you space for 4. If you want to add more underneath, you can. If you only want to have 2, that's fine. You should have at least 2 because there needs to be dialogue somewhere in your story. The setting needs to make sense for the character. So flashbacks may take place in a different place. So keep in time, when I say present time setting, I mean when the story begins, what is the present time setting for your narrator? What is their present time? And then, of course, they're going to have a flashback. So where they are in the present and then where they flash back to and how far back they flash, those are 2 different things. So those go here. Then, of course, who is your first person narrator? How will they talk? Are they going to be informal or formal? Are they going to talk with a Southern dialect or not? What kind of colloquialisms might they say? This is the one that's been causing trouble. Make sure that there's a conflict. Just some old dude telling a story about his life is not a conflict, right? But like the woman who dressed up as a man to fight in the war, like her conflict might be that she's trying to keep her identity a secret so that she can stay fighting in the war. Like that could be a conflict. But you need to make sure that there's a reason why your audience cares what happens. And it's not just because we're telling a story. Like we need to build suspense and tension there. So this is summarizing your triggering event, like whatever that's going to be in your story. It can be simple. It can be complicated. It does have to fill up 2 paragraphs. So summarize it. You can do a couple lines there or you can do more. That's up to you. The back side of your paper is the second part of the thing that you have to finish in order to submit before you leave today. Then you need to summarize what your flashback is going to be about. You don't have to write your flashback to tell what it's going to be about. And then also tell me, you're going to, obviously your narrator needs to be the student. Sorry. Your narrator needs to be the one that's going to be reflecting on the flashback, but you need to tell me what they're going to be thinking. What are they going to feel about these experiences in their flashback? Are they happy feelings? Are they sad feelings? Do they regret things? Do they wish they'd done things differently? Are they angry? Are they bitter? All of that should come in your reflection. And then finally, what's the concluding sentence? How will your story wrap up at the end? You do not have to do these things at the bottom. That's just me out of the kindness of my heart giving you access to Gags Mass Bays to check off, because you're going to be able to have this sheet when you do your writing test, and you can check off to make sure that you have Gags Mass Bays in your narrative before you submit at the end of the writing time to write. So you have time and Dane time to do this assignment, and then you have to submit this back to your teacher, and then you will be able to use this sheet on the day of the timed write. The timed write, you will get 45 minutes to write your narrative.